All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemake, and this is the Shoemake Take. Welcome in. Today, we got to talk about the Carolina Panthers and how, for the first time in ages, this team has hope. This team has excitement. There is real reason to be interested in the Panthers this year, to watch them, to be excited about them, and I am very happy to say that I think the Panthers are going to take a step forward and be a little bit better this year than last year. But before we jump into talking about the Panthers, if you guys know about how this series, if you guys know what the 2025 preview series is all about, you can go ahead and jump into the discussion. The timestamp is in the video description. But for those of you that don't know, here's what we're going to break down. We're going to quickly recap 2024. What was each team's record? How did they finish? What did they look like? And then we'll get into their offseason. What was their offseason moves? Was there coaching changes? Who they brought in as a player? Who they brought in free agency? Who they lost? Then we'll talk about their draft picks and go break down each pick one by one. And then after that, we will look at their schedule. We're going to look at what are the tough games? What are the easy games? Is there going to be tough stretches, hard stretches, all that good stuff going game by game. And then at the end, I'm going to give you my thoughts on how I think this team is, on each team is. Are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? Are they going to be mid? And then look at some strengths and weaknesses. And then we'll wrap a bow on the whole thing, looking at some important storylines to follow. So let's talk about the Carolina Panthers and how I think they're going to be better in 2025. And 2024 was up and down. They finished 5-12, which was less than what I thought they were going to go. And quite frankly, in the first half of the year, this team looked disappointing. Things looked disastrous. Bryce Young got benched for Andy Dalton early in the year, and it looked like they made a massive mistake drafting Bryce Young. But he came back as the starter, and this offense got better. The coaching got better. Dave Canales did a much better job as the year went along, and this team, by year's end, were fighting hard. They were in games. They were competitive. They were in there going through it. And while they didn't win a lot of games, they were a tough cookie to beat. I mean, they were no easy opponent by any means by year's end. So they finished strong, looked better, and now they're looking to build off of that, which I think they did a pretty good job with that. For their offseason, they really didn't do a whole lot outside of what they did in free agency and in the draft. They didn't bring in any major coaching changes. They didn't re-sign anybody. No, I take it back. Sorry. I did miss something. They extended J.C. Horn and gave him a big extension, which congratulations to him. He's one of the best corners in the league. He most definitely deserves it. He doesn't get a lot of recognition considering he's on the Panthers, but he is a very good corner. And so giving him that extension, very, very much appreciated. Love that for the Panthers. But now we can actually look in their free agency because, like I said, they didn't do a whole lot in their offseason other than just doing what every other team does, which is free agency and the draft. So looking at free agency, on the offensive side, they only got two players, Rico Dowdle and Sam Martin at punter. Rico Dowdle, I really liked that they brought this guy in. He was probably the one good thing outside of CeeDee Lamb that was good for the Dallas Cowboys offense last year after Dak went down. And he had 1,000 yards despite everything going wrong around him, quite frankly. And having him as a backup to Chuba Hubbard, that's fantastic. That's a really strong two running back 1-2 punch right there. I don't know how many snaps Dowdle takes, honestly, because Chuba Hubbard, I mean, he is a workhorse. I mean, he can take a lot of carries, but I expect them to not be as much with Rico Dowdle just to keep Chuba Hubbard fresh and keep him continuing to develop and grow after an amazing year he had last year for the Panthers. And then you look at the defensive side, and the Panthers defense was a problem last year. This was probably the worst defense in football. And so they went out and brought guys to fix it. They brought in Tershawn Wharton from Kansas City. They brought in Bobby Brown. These are going to be your two starting defensive tackles. Or maybe, no, excuse me, the number 2 and number 3 behind Derek Brown, and then they brought in Patrick Jones, Chris Roseboom, and Chris Barnes to provide depth at linebacker, and then they brought in safety Trevon Mulrig from the Las Vegas Raiders, and I like this pick. One of the issues with this team was the secondary, and giving a guy like Trevon Mulrig who can do a little bit of everything, who's a solid player. I like bringing him in. He is an immediate improvement at safety. So their free agency was pretty good. They went out to invest in their defense and they went out and they've invested into their defense pretty well, in my opinion. They spent a lot of money there, brought in some good players, brought in some good depth. And so overall, I think this defense will be better because of that. And then you look at their losses, and they really didn't lose a whole lot either. You look at, on the offensive side, the most important loss that they had was Ian Thomas, who was their tight end who's been there forever, but he hasn't been a starter. He hasn't been anything like a big high-level contributor. And then the other notable one is Miles Sanders. They let him go. God, that was a terrible signing. I thought they were going to get a really good running back in Miles Sanders at the time, but he has been a quite literal nothing burger for them. He's done next to nothing since joining the Panthers. So after he left the Eagles, he fell off a cliff. And I don't remember where he went. But on the defensive side, they lost Shaq Thompson, who has been their one of their edge rushers, defensive players there forever. They also lost some depth on the defensive side, or in the secondary, I should say, with Xavier Woods, who was a starter for them last year. They lost a lot on the defensive side. So the secondary is a little worse, I will say that. But overall, I would say this defense is better with who they brought in. They brought in some good, talented players that have done some good things, that have a lot of experience. This defense will be better because of them overall. And other than that, you look at the draft, and I know we're going a little bit quick here for the Carolina Panthers. That's just because they didn't really do a whole lot other than free agency in the draft. But that's fine, because the Panthers did a really good job on both fronts, especially here in the draft. I am so excited about these first 3 picks. It's crazy the value that they got with all 3. Number 1 in the first round, wide receiver Tetaroa McMillan out of Arizona, University of Arizona. And he is your big physical X receiver the Panthers need. Not only is he a 50-50 demon, he's great after the catch, and for his size, he's a smooth route runner, gets out of his breaks quickly. He's not explosive, but he doesn't need to be, because he gets where it needs to be, gets there on time, quickly, and he's got a lot of potential. I think he has probably the highest potential out of any of these receivers in this draft class as of right now. And I know a lot of people kind of fell on Tet McMillan later as the draft came closer, but in my opinion, Tetaroa McMillan is so talented. He was still the best receiver on paper right now to me, and so getting him at number 8, the opportunity, it was too talented to pass up. Like I said, I know the Panthers need defense. That was their biggest issue. Wide receiver isn't really a problem, but Tetaroa McMillan, I'm not going to complain getting a talented guy like that to go with Bryce Young. I'm not going to complain about that at all. And then now, where things get really exciting because of the value, you look at Nick Scorton, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M, getting him in the 50s. He would have been a first-round pick, arguably. I had him going in the first round early in my mock drafts because not only is he a good pass rusher, he's a good run defender, he's got good speed, he's got good bend, his transition from speed to power is really, really good. He's got a lot of tools for him to start right away and be a contributor for the Carolina Panthers defense, and so I expect him to. And then you look at the 3rd-round pick, Princely Umami-Ellen out of Ole Miss. He could have gone in the 2nd round, in my opinion. Another very talented guy, very good bend off the edge. Another guy who's got really good speed to power, who's effective in the run game, good at pass rush, and both of these guys, too, have the ability to drop in coverage as well. So I like their versatility. Their skill sets are somewhat similar, mostly similar, and they got good value. I really like these players. I like their opportunity to develop. And considering that edge rusher and pass rusher is the most important position on the defensive side, not named corner, getting 2 guys with a lot of upside here, really, really like it. They're going out to really bolster this defensive line and get it better. They brought in a lot of defensive linemen on the interior, brought in 2 edge rushers here with Scorton and Umami-Ellen. They have a chance in a couple years to have a really good defensive front if all shakes out in their direction. And then you look at Trevor Etienne in the 4th round, former Georgia running back. Kind of a do-it-all, can do a little bit of everything, but going to be hard for him to get snaps significantly behind Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. But for now, he's going to be a special teams guy, going to get some snaps slightly in the rotation. He's going to be fine, I think. But right now, he's going to be competing really hard for snaps. Probably not going to get that very many significant snaps on offense. And you look at safety Lathan Ransom in the 4th round, a guy that has some chance to develop, good in the run game, gets downhill really quickly. He could develop into a safety for them in a couple of years. I'm sorry, my throat's a little sore. But I think right now he's just going to develop, play on teams, and down the line he could be a good player for them. And then Cam Jackson in the 5th round. He's a defensive tackle that is massive, has got great length, sheds through blockers. He is a big man-eating offensive lineman for breakfast. He is a developmental guy, of course. He's going to need some time. He's very raw. But if he could develop, he would be a monster at nose tackle. Would be a really good run stuffer at his best. And then you look at tight end Mitchell Evans, a 5th-round pick who's a really good receiving tight end, has a lot of upside and physical tools, but another guy that needs to develop as a blocker, but it's going to be hard getting snaps and fighting for a roster spot because Tommy Tremble is there, Jatavion Sanders is there, so he's going to provide depth for now, play on teams, but he has a chance to develop into a solid tight end for the Panthers. And then they drafted a wide receiver in the 6th round, Jimmy Horn Jr. out of Colorado, one of Shedeur Sanders' favorite targets. Really good deep speed. I like Jimmy Horn. I think he was the one that caught the game-winning Hail Mary touchdown early in the year for them as well. He's going to be playing on teams. He's going to fight for a roster spot, but he's got the talent to be on the end of the depth chart and maybe develop into something later on. But overall, this draft class was really good for the Panthers. I really, really like it, what they got at the top and who they added on this in the 4th round, 5th round are guys that could be something for them later on down the line. I like who they added. They addressed a lot of their needs, and so I can't really complain at all. And so are they an improved football team? Yes, they are a much better football team than what they were last year. And so let's look at their schedule and look and see how good things shake out there for them, because their schedule, their first 6 games are pretty favorable here. You look at week 1 on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's going to be a tough game. They're in similar spots, but I think the Panthers could win this. They could also lose it, but it all shakes out to see how well this Panthers defense does to the Jaguars offense. That's going to be the big matchup on that one. And then week 2 against the Arizona Cardinals, the rematch from last year. These two teams were really fighting. I think it ended up being an overtime win for the Panthers in week 17, I'm pretty sure it was. These two teams played really well against each other. I expect this game to be another fun one as well. And then your home opener is against the Falcons. That's going to be a tough ask, but I think the Carolina Panthers can get one over on the Falcons this year. They did last year at the end of the year, so expect them to probably split again. So let's just say we'll give the Panthers the win here because they're at home. Then week 4 against the New England Patriots. This is going to be a really tough test because on the Patriots side, you got a young quarterback and young offensive weapons. This defense should have some success against this Patriots offense. The Patriots offense isn't loaded with talent. Quite frankly, it's the opposite. They don't have a whole lot of talent, quite frankly, that's really good enough to compete with some of the best in the NFL. So for a young defense that's improving steadily, that's coming off of a really bad year, this will be a good test to see how good the Panthers defense actually is. And then on the other side, the Patriots defense also has a lot of issues on their roster. So the Panthers offense should have some success. This is a game right now I think the Carolina Panthers can win. Is it 100% a guaranteed win? No. But it's one that I think can win. So you're looking at a potential 2-2 start, maybe a 3-2 start if you get, or a 3-1 start if things really shake out in your favor. But that's what happens when you face teams like the Jaguars, like the Falcons, or not, like the Cardinals, like the Patriots. And then week 5 against Miami, this one's probably going to be a loss just because the Dolphins offense is going to be too tough to stop, I think. With Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, all the speed that they have, that's a tall task for this defense. And then week 6, you're at home against the Dallas Cowboys. That's a winnable football game. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are very good this year. So that's a competitive game the Panthers can eke out and win. And then you look at week 7 against the New York Jets. That's another game that's winnable for the Panthers. So every single game so far, except for the Miami Dolphins game, I would say are winnable. I mean, even the Dolphins game is winnable. I don't think the Dolphins are going to be very good this year. It's just their passing game is going to be really tough to go up against with this Panthers secondary. But all these first 7 games are in the realm of winnable for the Panthers. I'm not saying they're going to start 7-0, but they have a good chance to start out strong here and really assert themselves and show that they're a much better football team. And they're going to need to, because they're going into a stretch here that's very challenging Week 8 at home against Buffalo, I think that's a loss. Week 9 on the road against the Packers, that's a loss. And then week 10, you're at home to face the Saints. I think you get that win. And then you go on the road week 11 against the Falcons. I think you got split. Give me the loss there. So you're looking at a 1-3 stretch to this point. And then you're at Monday Night Football on the road against the 49ers. The 49ers, since they're at home, I think I might give them the edge here and give the 49ers the win. So you're looking at a 1-4 stretch. Then the Rams at home make that 1-5. So it's going to start off favorable, but things get really tough in the middle of the year. And then you get a week 14 bye week, so later in the year allows you to get ready for this home stretch. And this home stretch is going to be tough because you got 3 divisional games, 2 of them against Tampa. I think Tampa, though, I think they win at home against the Buccaneers in week 16, though. They played them really well in the second half. For second game on the road, the Bucs were trying to get into the playoffs, trying to submit their division title, and they did it against Carolina. It was in Carolina as well, but I think the Panthers are a little bit better. This year, they're going to give the Bucs a run for their money like they did last year. Maybe they can split. It's a winnable game for them, but even if they split, that's all they're really doing. So give me week 18 as a loss. And then week 17 against the Seahawks, that's a very tall task. With the defense and what I think it's going to be this year for Seattle and what this offense is going to look like by year's end, it's a little bit too tough for the Carolina Panthers. I have them losing that. But overall, I mean, their schedule has a lot of good things to like. They can start out strong. Their second 6 games are going to be really tough. And then they're going to really have to finish out the last 4 games strong. Probably finish 2-2 if they want to finish with the record I have them going at. But overall, how do I feel about the Carolina Panthers this year? Because I think they take a step forward. Like I said, I have hope for this team. I think this offense is a little better now with Tetairoa McMillan, Xavier Legette in year 2. Adam Thielen is still there. Tommy Tremble is still your starting tight end. He's good. And the offensive line as well. The offensive line was sneaky good last year. They weren't great, but they were very, very solid. And on a Panthers team that won only 5 games, they got a lot better as the year went on. They were a formidable unit, and that's really their strengths on this team. Their weapons and their offensive line. The weapons full of young talent. I didn't even mention Jubba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle, but like I said, with Legette, McMillan, Thielen, Tommy Tremble, Jatavion Sanders is going in year 2. Can he stay healthy? Please do. He's a good receiving tight end out of Texas. But the offensive line, everything in right now for the Panthers is in place for Bryce Young and this offense to do well. And not just do well, do pretty well. This offense should at least be an average unit. They have too much talent, too much playmakers. This offense should be fun to watch. It better be. They have a lot going for them, and so I'm going to be excited and interested in watching this Carolina Panthers offense and how it grows. And then the defense, the only true weakness that they have is the secondary. I could say defensive line and linebacker are going to be a weakness because they have a lot of newness, 2 young edge rushers, but I think they did enough to where the front 7 should be formidable and not be a dumpster fire. They still have Derek Brown, who's a really good defensive tackle as well. I like what they have on the front 7. It's not worrisome. Secondary is worrisome because other than J.C. Horn and Trevon Moehrig, you got a lot of guys that don't have a lot of starting experience, and guys overall that just, when they've been on the field, have not played very well. So you're hoping that maybe an improved front 7 will make them better, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I think the secondary is still going to have some problems, plenty of problems this year for Carolina, which is really what's going to hold them back. But this defense has a chance to be okay this year. They have the pieces in place. They should be an overall better unit than what they were last year. Is that saying much? No, because they were probably the worst defense in football last year. But they should take a step forward as a unit. And so, looking at the division, I have them finishing 3rd right now. I don't think they're as good as the Falcons or the Bucs quite yet, but they're trending in that direction. And so I don't have them making the playoffs yet. But my official record prediction for the Carolina Panthers is improved. It is, boom, 8-9. I thought they'd go 7-10 last year and take that step forward. They didn't. So I have them winning 8-9. Now give me 8 wins to make this team take a step forward. Like I said, I am excited about the Carolina Panthers. They will be a better football team this year. At this point, I think there's enough in place to say, okay, with definitive evidence and definitive thought, I think that it's pretty fair to assess that the Panthers are better. They got better on offense. They overhauled their defense. They should be better on both sides of the ball. Bryce Young should continue to develop and improve going into year 3. And Dave Canales, going to his second year as a head coach, should have settled down a bit into having what was a really challenging rookie season for him as well. So things, continuity-wise, should be a little bit better. And that is like the biggest storyline going into this year for the Carolina Panthers is Bryce Young and Dave Canales. But more specifically, will Bryce Young take that next step forward? After he got benched, he looked like his career was going to be over before it even really got started. And then he came back and started playing well, played okay. And then as the year went along, he started having some really good games, started getting really consistent too, which is really important. Was he lighting the world on fire? No, but he was very consistent. He was productive, getting the ball out on time, making plays in structure, outside of structure, like he was so good at Alabama. He was very exciting and very encouraging. And then in the same breath, will Ikem Ekwonu step forward? He's been their top left tackle. He was a high draft pick a couple years ago. He needs to step up and be better. He's dealt with a couple injuries as well. But this offensive line was sneaky good last year for the Panthers. And if they want to take a step forward and be even better, Ikem Ekwonu needs to be better and take that next step into becoming that true franchise tackle that they need him to be. And then the third one is defensive improvements. I want to see this defensive line look better. I want to see these linebackers play better. The secondary, I'm not really excited about. Like I said, there's a lot of players that don't have a lot of experience outside of Trevon Moehrig and J.C. Horn. So you want to see this front seven play better. They invested into it. It better be better. And then number 4 is their culture. One thing that the Panthers were defined with last year at year's end was their culture. Despite the fact that they were losing games, they were not performing well, guess what? They went out there, rallied with each other, rallied for their coach, and kept on fighting no matter what it was, no matter who it was. They did not quit. They did not give up. That is a reflection of Dave Canales and the culture that he's building in Carolina. And so in year 2, you want to see that culture really flourish and begin to blossom, where you see the unity of this team really pull itself into a couple wins and really just see this team more gelled, more cohesive, more together, more unified, whatever term you want to use. The culture is so important for Carolina because before Dave Canales, they had nothing. They had nothing. What's his name? Before Frank Reich got there, the former Nebraska head coach. Oh my goodness, what's his name? Oh my goodness. Oh my God, I know exactly what his name, or not what his name is. I can't remember it. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's going to hit me here in about a couple minutes probably. If not, I'm sorry. But after he could not establish it in Carolina, got fired, Frank Reich stepped in. He was awful, objectively awful, got fired before the season was even over. And so Dave Canales, for him to set the culture that he's seemed to have set early on in his time in Carolina, considering all the crap that they've gone through, that's very encouraging. And so culture, to wrap that all up, culture is going to be a big thing for the Panthers this year. I expect it to continue to grow and be better along with the rest of this team. So with that being said, that is going to do it for me today. Sorry that this is a little bit of a shorter video. Was not expecting it to be less than 30 minutes, but that is kind of how it panned out. I'm excited about the Panthers, though. I'm really excited about Bryce Young in year 3 with Tetairoa McMillan, Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen. All those receivers should be really good for him this year. And the defense, there's a lot of things to be excited about. There's a lot to believe in. There's a lot of upside here. They should be a better unit in 2025. So with that being said, if you guys have made it this far, please consider hitting the like button and hitting the subscribe button. It helps the channel out tremendously. I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers before the 2025 regular season ends. So please smash those 2 buttons and get the word out, because we are doing a great job. You guys are doing a fantastic job. We're really approaching 190 subscribers very, very quickly, and we're probably going to reach 200 before the season starts. If we can do that, we will be set up really, really well. Secondly, Panthers fans, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think the Panthers are going to be better than 8-9 this year? Do you think that all the additions that they've made on offense are going to pay off? Do you think Bryce Young takes that next step forward? And what do you think of this defense? How much better do you think this defense is going to be this year for the Panthers? I want to hear everything you guys have to say. And then second to last, make sure you guys share this video and also follow me on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. And then lastly, make sure you guys go check out the rest of my season preview videos. I got some great content out there. The entire AFC is done. So if you're a fan of one of those teams or know a person that's a fan of those teams, tell them to go check it out. Got some really good stuff in there for you guys that I make every single day. But with that being said, that is going to do it for me. I don't know why I said every single day. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I was going to skip over it, but I was like, no, in good faith, I can't say that. I'm sorry. But at least we're going to have content every single day for the next 2 weeks or so, because I'm going to be recording the rest of the season preview series this week. So I'm going to get them all recorded, get them all uploaded, just one day at a time, just boom, 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 boom. And during that time, I'm going to take a couple weeks off, work on social media a little bit, get some clips out for the season, kind of like a divisional season preview, just breaking it down by division. And then we'll, just like that, we're going to be in the season and we'll be covering week 1 before we know it. So that being said, that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys have enjoyed. And as always, I will see you all next time.